I have the honor to introduce Hananya Naftali, a leading Israeli Jewish influencer and human rights activist in the fight against anti-Semitism, terrorism, and assault on the state of Israel. Hananya has been working for Prime Minister Netanyahu and his digital team for the past 3 years. Hananya has served in the Israeli army, fought Hamas during the Gaza war in 2014, treated Syrian wounded civilians as a combat medic, and today he defends Israel in the international arena. Hello, Hananya.
Shalom.
Thank you for joining us today.
It's awesome to be here.
So I think the best place to start is to pick up on what Goldie and Elon were talking about is education. And how do we bring education about Israel's legal rights to the youth and to the world? And you are a social media sensation, so maybe you can give us some tips on how we can use social media as a tool to educate the public about Israel's legal rights.
Yeah, precisely. We sat here and heard so much information and knowledge, and it's so vital to know because knowledge is strength. But then when we go to social media, we see a lot of shallow content, not just not talking about Israel content, but people love to, it's the world of the 1 minute, the 5 seconds. So everything is happening so quickly and people lose patience very quickly. So I think that with, and obviously Israel's legal rights, Israel's truth are things that are very important to tell. So I think that the best thing to do is to, first of all, simplify the message. History and legal rights may be boring to some if they are told as if we are reading from a book. People go on social media, people go online to listen, to watch. They go there because they don't go to read a book necessarily. They want to gain knowledge in creative ways, like storytelling. So I think that what we can do as Israel's family members, if I may say, is to simplify things. Because when you say on social media, when you say Israel's legal rights, a lot of times the youth is already going to check their phones and to see what's going on TikTok, Instagram, and other things. So in order to capture their attention, as well as students in campuses, it's to tell stories, focus on people. When you see how the other side is working, how the other people, like Israel's haters are working, you see that they share videos, they focus on emotions, they focus on this particular story from this village. So we should do exactly the same. It could be very confusing when we hear numbers, dates, events. Although they are very important, I think that it is also very important to focus on the story. Because, for example, let me just confuse you all for a second. We have the green line. Okay, the green line is also known as the press 67 lines, which is also known as the 48 lines. And then you have the purple line, which is the post 67 war. So these things could be very confusing. And when you bring emotions to history, you bring it to life in the minds and the hearts of the people that are listening and that are watching. So I think that in order to keep Israel's legal rights, Israel's history alive, we should not merely focus on numbers, dates, events, and conferences, even though they are very important, as they might confuse people. We always need to keep in mind that we might be speaking to people that literally just now turn their phone on and do not necessarily care about Israel. And we need to grab their attention. We need to make sure that they're on our side, that they standing on the right side of history. So yeah, that's definitely something important. I would say, with all the information that we heard, and it's like ammunition. It's a weapon, and social media is a weapon. Today's social media is where people come to argue, to express their opinions, to talk about what's burning inside their hearts. And I think that it is exactly the thing that we all should use in order to speak up for Israel, speak up for the truth. Yeah, so if I may say, for example, because I spoke about things from one perspective. So if I may give an example, for example, we all heard about the Ben and Jerry's uh, story, that some people question Israel's rights on Judea and Samaria, therefore they call it occupied Palestinian territory. So one could speak about the numbers, could speak about the historical facts, which are important. But what if we go to Ben and Jerry's factory, speak with the people there, with the workers? What if we go to Samaria and stand on the ground and explain what's going on here, rather than focus on merely numbers? So this is my take on how to spread the word about Israel in one sentence. It is to use emotions, tell stories. This is how it's done.
Thank you, Hananya. That's great advice. And as we know, social media is very quick, right? So if you don't catch the attention of people within the first few seconds, then you lose them. So those are some great points. Another question I'd like to ask is, how do you think we can break through to schools and campus leadership, organizations, to be supportive about teaching about Israel's legal rights? For example, we at CILR have an abundance of material, educational material available. We have our book, the Jewish People's Rights to the Land of Israel. We have education packages, but how can we get this material into the schools? For some reason, Israel education has become controversial. And why is that? And how do we bring this important material in for the youth to learn and for the rest of the world to know about?
That's a great question. As I've stated before, we heard Avram talking, Ilan, and other great speakers, providing the material. And now the question is how. Okay, so I have the material, I have the knowledge. What do I do with it now? And I think that the simple answer is to make noise. Don't be silent. People are drawn to noise, not silence, naturally, unless you live in Tel Aviv or Jerusalem. So we kind of appreciate the silence sometimes. But the BDS movement, for example, take the BDS movement, for example, they are all about making noise, demonizing the state of Israel through pressure and dominating the public opinion. And I think that we should do best if we dominate the public opinion with the truth. And so that's about that. But in order to do that, I think that we should be united together, because there is an importance of collaboration. We are stronger when we are working together. And I think that this is something that's really important, especially with the variety of organizations that we have in the US. Well, I'm here in Israel, but there are plenty of organizations working in the US, in Canada. So to me, as an advocate, it doesn't really matter, for example, the credit or things like that, because we have one purpose: defending the Jewish state. And obviously we are a minority, and we see a lot of people making a lot of noise. So I think that we should be the ones that will make the noise. We will dominate the public opinion with the truth, because the days that we were apologetic and feeling the need to explain ourselves and to say, oh no, it's like, oh, we're so sorry, no, please let me explain to you. No, I think that we live in different times. We spoke about the mandate, and perhaps us needing to explain ourselves, our aspirations and demands. But today, Israel is a world power, is world leaders come to Israel to learn from us on agricultural techniques, how we defend ourselves, and all these kinds of stuff that we don't need to apologize for who we are. Obviously, we have the right here, and we have the obligation to voice that. But for we don't need to apologize for who we are, especially us not being the underdog. We are a strong power, and obviously Israel is not free of blemishes. But show me one country that is free of blemishes, you know. So I would say, to conclude, that is that our strength is unity. There should not be any competition. I think that our work is all for the sake of Israel, and unfortunately, as we speak right now, there is an ongoing battle. You just need to open your phone and to see that we are at war on social media. There are people that working around the clock to bash Israel.
Right. And then how do you think we can make this topic, so Israel's legal rights, more interesting for students? They don't necessarily have the same attention span, and they're overloaded with work and at school. So how can we present the facts to them and still keep it interesting?
I think that first of all, to me, it's super interesting, but maybe I'm not the perfect example to that. But I think that by storytelling, some of the most watched videos across the internet are what people that tell stories. This is how you capture people's attention. This is how you make people listen to you. You know, you could speak the facts, but you could also speak and tell a story. I could give you an example from the Middle East. I filmed a video with an Arab Muslim friend of mine explaining, his life here in Israel, and I asked him questions like, "So how is it like for you to live here under apartheid and stuff like that?" To make him answer and tell a story. And weeks later, I got a message from an Egyptian student. So it's slightly different than college, college campuses, I assume. But and his message says that in his messages he wrote that he wanted to come to Israel via Jordan and stab Jews. But then he saw this video and he realized that we are not the monsters he thought we were, and that it changed his opinion. So I think that this serves as a great example to, first of all, define the audience. If we want to reach people that already support Israel and we want to strengthen them, then yeah, storytelling is the best thing. When you hear about the men from Jerusalem who fought during the 6-Day War, or the family in Samaria that has their vineyards. So through these stories, you can basically help students that don't have time to basically listen to stories. But if we go to the other group that we need to change their opinions, then it is slightly more challenging, because we do need to tell them a story, but at the same time, we need to present the facts. And this is a whole different interesting topic. When you think about it, people at the end of the day, no matter if you're a student, no matter doesn't matter where you live, at the end of the day, people connect to things like food. People connect to culture. People connect to traditions and holidays, rather than numbers, dates, and events. So if we use these things first, to make the connection, we will be able to make it easier on students in campuses and schools. If you help them connect to the truth, connect with Israel through these things, it will be much easier to then provide the hard facts. And secondly, when people love you, it is much easier for them to support your legal rights. So by actually providing these kind of easygoing materials, it is very easy to create friends for Israel, and especially busy people, because as we talked about before, people on social media are always busy. If you're not interesting, boom, within a second you're out of their phone.
And how do you think we should portray the Jewish narrative nowadays in comparison with mandate times? In mandate times, we were told to get out of our countries of origin and go to Palestine. And now Jews are being told to get out of Palestine. Also, what do you think the strengths versus the weaknesses are when it comes to pro-Israel advocacy?
Oh, wow. Don't get me started. Well, first of all, regarding how should we portray the narrative today is, first of all, as I've said, we should not apologize. Israel is no longer the underdog. We are a world superpower in so many fields. And I think that this should be our narrative today, to portray the facts and the truth as they are. We do not whine about the partition plan, even though it wasn't the ideal one. We built ourselves, we built our land, unlike the Palestinian leadership that whines about everything and asks for money and more funds. And we all know that a great portion of it is used to sponsor terrorism. In fact, in 2020 alone, the Palestinian Authority spent over $150 million on terrorism. So do we need to explain ourselves, or do they need to explain their terrorist actions? This should be the narrative. The narrative should be that they should explain themselves, not us explaining why we build homes in Judea and Samaria. This should be the narrative. The crimes committed by the Palestinian Authority, the crimes committed by Hamas, the human rights of the Palestinians, the Arabs that live in Gaza. This should be the narrative, because it's great and easy to whine about stuff like the Palestinian leadership does. When they always, well, not always, but sometimes Mahmoud Abbas would say, well, if you only go back to the 67 lines, we'll start a negotiate, okay? Well, let me tell you something. They don't want us here. That's why they didn't accept the partition plan. They want a state not next to Israel. They want a state instead of Israel, on the top of Israel. That's why in their rallies, they always chant free Palestine. And from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. So I'm sorry if it's breaking news to some of you. And this should be the narrative. We are a superpower. So remember that we are a small country, but a lot of world leaders, and I can tell you firsthand, are looking up to Israel to learn from Israel. So they need to explain themselves, not us. So just shoot the truth without apologizing, because with all this cancel culture, we are canceled anyways. So we might as well just say the truth as it is. And regarding to the strengths and the weaknesses when it comes to the pro-Israel world, I think that the number one strength is that some people here might not agree with me. And it shows that there's a variety of opinions. So while I use myself as an example, I think that it's the beauty of it, that within the pro-Israel world, we have a variety of opinions. Some people support if we we go to talk about movements. So some people support the Black Lives Matter. Some people support Trump. Some pro-Israel people support Biden. People focus on the Arab narrative. Some people focus on the religious narrative. I think that it's good. I think that it's good that there is a variety of opinions, because then it's easier to garner more support and to garner more people that, it's not just about supporting, but it's about being curious about what's going on here. So I think that this is the number one strength. And well, I think that the weakness is that, I've been doing this since the pretty much since the Gaza war in 2014. So I might not have the most experience. I believe that Liz has a little bit more experience. But I do see lack of unity in this world. I think that we should be way more united, and well, in many cases, and I'm sure you, Agnes, will confirm this, because I'm guilty as charged as well, is sometimes lack of availability. And well, I want to tell you a quick story about the lack of availability that an employee of the United Nations told me. They are supporters of Israel, obviously, and unfortunately in secret, because I think that if they talk about it in public, they will lose their job. Anyways, they work at the General Assembly, organizing everything, and in charge of a lot of things at the UN. And this friend of mine tells me that, Hananya, in one of my visits to the UN in New York, they told me that, whenever I contact the Israeli delegation, the Israeli mission to the UN, it takes them a lot of time to respond. But if I contact the Palestinian mission, boom, we get a message, not just in a few hours, but in today, now. They are so quick to respond. And while I think that all of us are so busy doing so many things, and we are all bombarded with information and with the news, with the Jerusalem Post opened, the Times of Israel opened, and all kinds of other websites. So I think that it is important to remember that we should make ourselves more available, because at the end of the day, it harms our advocacy, because like what we heard just now, whenever the Palestinian mission is being contacted, whenever Palestinian activists are being contacted, many of them are very, very quick to respond. And well, unfortunately, not many people on social media are great friends of Israel. So I think that we should definitely work on that. And I'm, as I've stated, guilty as charged. But on unity, I think that it's so important, because our strength is, at the end of the day, is in unity, and not in division. And I think that we should, among ourselves, we should focus on what unites us, and we should focus on what we all agree on. Although, when it comes to unity, it is good to have good discussions. But in terms of uniting together around the cause of Israel, since we have a variety of opinions and different political sides, so this is a very interesting world to all of us.
Right. We're all fighting the same battle for the same cause. And one last question, just because we are running short on time, but it's an important question I don't want to miss, is what do you think the Jews should have done when faced with what is called the first partition, the carving of Transjordan out of the land promised to Israel? And how do you think that would impact the Jewish world today?
Well, in short, I will say that it wasn't a good deal, this partition plan, but especially with the fact that this partition plan illegally changed the parts of the Balfour Declaration, that was reaffirmed by the San Remo resolution. So I think that we should, though, keep in mind that Jews were in exile for over 2,000 years, and we did compromise for the sake of peace, for this partition. But and we all remember and know these videos of Jews celebrating, even though in my opinion it wasn't the best and ideal partition plan. But also the reason that, well, the fact that the Arabs refused and didn't even show up at the vote is actually the reason why we don't have peace until this day. They simply don't believe that Jews have the right to the land, and most certainly didn't believe that the UN has any right to divide the land or decide who gets what. Um, and of course, they do deeply regret that they chose to wage war in Israel. I'm sure of that. So I think that this is absolutely something that is obviously it's great to have international recognition to an extent, but at the end of the day, it wasn't the ideal plan, especially with Jerusalem being under according to the international to the partition plan under the control of the UN. But then I do think that the fact that the Arabs didn't show up to the vote makes them illegitimate to then demand this plan for themselves after the vote. But I'm not sure about that. So it's I think that at the end of the day, it's something that it's good that it happened, and as a previous speaker stated, 77% of the British mandate was in Jordan. So in my opinion, Jordan is Palestine and not Judea and Samaria.